our panel members to the stage, and we are going to kick off another discussion. And I will tell you that we've been doing these partnership discussions with Patricia and Steve and the team at Assisting Hands, and you all have brought us just some amazing uh, guests, and today is no different. But Patricia, before we meet our guest, let's get to know you and Assisting Hands, and then we can kick off this discussion.
Well, thanks, Steve. You know, you are an inspiration in the community. You provide so much support to such a huge area, the DMV. You're everywhere, and I don't know how you've managed it unless you've got clones in your closet or something. It's just fantastic. So, thank you for being you and all the positive energy you bring to the field of aging. I'm actually an artist, and I have been in this field for many, many years. You know, my mom says I started making art in the playpen, so I can't really say I've never ever been without an artist in me. And through my artwork, I discovered the field of arts and healing, and then within the arts and healing world, I went into arts and aging and healing, and it was in that period of time when Lauren and I actually met through the Society of Arts and Healthcare. And actually, we're roommates, you know, before we even became friends at one of their conferences. And then fast forward to 10 years, 7 years ago, I met Steve Lorberbaum, who was interested in adding some creativity to his home care company. And so he asked me to come on board, and I've been happily doing that for the past almost 7 years.
I love it.
So it's been a really interesting journey for me. And, you know, we not only provide fantastic certified nursing aides for all of our clients in Montgomery County, but we also ask all of our clients and all of our caregivers what brings them joy. What is the creativity piece that makes them happy that they can transfer with their clients, whether it's singing hymns or crocheting or beating out a rhythm on a drum or whatever that might be. We like to encourage both our clients and our caregivers to embrace creativity as a healing modality because science says it makes us feel better, and I believe it. We also have sister organizations all over the DMV. So Assisting Hands Potomac is where I'm headquartered, but we have other buddies in Anne Arundel County and Frederick and Howard and Alexandria and Arlington and Prince George's. So that's where I'm coming from, and I look forward to chatting with Lauren as we could
I
move through
love
the
it. Love it.
program.
Now, before we meet Lauren, is the art behind you, Patricia, your own creation?
Yes, it is actually. Thank you for noticing the big sunflowers. And I do have a series, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, called Who Cares? I've been working on portraits of caregivers for the past 35 years in this field. Now have a selection of 50 that are part of a traveling exhibit, and I take it around to faith-based groups and community centers and alternative galleries and have discussions about caregiving. And actually, if you go to my website, pdubroff.com, there's a place to nominate your favorite caregiver, and then I interview them for podcasts, and they come out every month. So there's my little
Love it.
infomercial for Who Cares.
Yep,
I'll
and
put
I'm
it in the
dropping that
chat so
into
people
chat
can
for
remember.
everybody there. So, uh, uh, Lauren, you and Patricia have known each other for many years.
We have.
We and our community have never met you. So tell us before we dive in to your book and your background and the topic of hands-on mindfulness, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, as you can see from my background, I consider myself a quilt maker. I'm a professional quilt maker. I make quilts for people. I teach classes about quilt making through the Smithsonian, and I have just always loved doing things with fiber, with So I knit and crochet and embroider and sew and all of these things. It's very much part of who I am. Um, I was fortunate enough to be introduced to Helen Oram years ago. Helen was also part of starting the Society for the Arts in Healthcare, and she arranged for me to show up at the Georgetown Lombardi Cancer Center at Georgetown Hospital in DC, as the first artist that they hired for their arts and humanities program. Helen, yay. Helen had a vision that not only is the environment supportive of mental and physical health, but actually seeing creative activity and doing creative activity in a medical space, what would be healing. And so she took a chance on me and hired me to come in and and do hands-on fiber art things with patients. So
Love
and
it.
I was there for maybe 25 years in person. Now I live in Lakewood, Colorado, so I'm not able to go into the hospital in person every day, but I do have a weekly Zoom class through Arts and Humanities called Creative Mindfulness. We talk about topics of interest. We do a hands-on project, and my colleague Carrie Monger, who is a movement artist and a dancer, creates choreography for us every week. So we really are about the mind and the body, not only making things, but also movement and dance and how that can all be part of um, creative mindfulness.
Love it. All right. Well, as we can see in the background there, and I'm going to drop it into chat. You've got a book, Hands-on Mindfulness,
I
and I
do.
love talking to book authors. And I understand this is not the only book that you have have written. But what I find is that when we walk through an author's book, it's really a great way to keep the conversation going and get a glimpse of what is in the book if we wanted to buy it
Sure.
and dive deeper.
Well,
Uh,
thank you for that. I want to say the reason I wrote this book is to move forward the conversation about the connection between mind and body, about the connection between what you do with your hands and your mental and physical health. So thank you for letting me be part of the conversation here, because that's really important. It's really
I
important.
love it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is if it's okay with you all and the folks in the audience, is I'm gonna bring up your table of contents of your
Okay.
book. And
Okay.
how about first off, just um uh give us a little bit of the big picture in terms of I always like hearing the how and why of how you organize this, the experience that we're going to go through when we walk through the book here today, but when I'm reading the book, there's you know, tell us a little bit about your thoughts there, and then we'll dive into a few of the chapters.
Okay. Chapter one, hands want to express themselves, is my argument for paying attention to the mind-body connection that is already there. Patricia, do you want me to read the first sentence you
That would
mentioned?
be great.
Okay. This book is for anyone who has ever had a rough day and turned to their craft supply stash for a mental health break. It is for the person who is uncomfortable with idle hands. It is for someone facing the scary times of not knowing what's ahead. It's about creative coping.
I think that pretty much sums it up. So it's really, it's not like a primer on how to do, it's not a how-to book. It's really about investigating more into why we make stuff with our hands and
Right.
how we can maybe play intentionally in that field and get even more benefit from it. So,
Mhm.
Exactly. It's a coming from the fiber art world, many of the books there are how to make this project. So it is
Right.
not
Mhm.
how to make this project book, and there are instructions for how to make projects in it.
Yeah.
Uh, I have training from the Thai Sophia Institute in mindfulness, and there are journal prompts in every chapter. So, and there's a section in the back of the book about how to write about all of this if you do that. But it's not really a mindfulness guide. It's as you said, Patricia, it's a why we do this, how to
So,
do this in another way.
so here's something that I want to address that I'm curious at your all's response to this is that um, I'm I'm a quote unquote artist. I mean, I think we're all artists, okay? Like I play around
Absolutely.
with mosaic and things like that. But one of the things that oftentimes comes up in my family and my connections is when we start talking about art is that somebody will say, "Oh, I'm not good at art. Oh, I can't draw. I can't paint. I can't do
Right.
this. No, 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 no. I can't do all that stuff." And it drives me crazy because another thing that used to drive me crazy is that my kids would take an art class and get a grade. Okay, is that it's about expression and so you know sometimes it can be intimidating. Like as I'm looking at these beautiful pieces that you both have in your background, it's sort of like, oh, this is not for me. This is high level, but what I like about what I'm reading and what I'm hearing in your book is that this can be for anyone. There could be somebody with dementia who can't communicate, but if we can some clay in their hands or something to get creative and express themselves through their hands, that could be a solution. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I completely agree with you. Everyone has a creative element. It's part of who we are as humans. And when you set aside the evaluation, is this good or bad, and just embrace the I am doing this in this moment, that's really important. It's not about what you make, it's about the fact that you are doing the making. So,
Lauren,
yes,
I'm going to remind you of a situation that you came up with a brilliant concept, and that is that when you're working with people who are saying, you know, I can't really draw, I can't really paint, that's really not what the process is about. It's
no,
about just getting into that beta energy, that meditative energy, and
right,
getting away from whatever is plaguing your busy mind, whether it's a pain or a worry or you know, just a list of to-do things.
right.
And so Lauren coined the phrase slow listening, and
Absolutely.
that's what we want our bodies to do. We want us as practitioners and also as supporters to drop into that slow listening.
The slow,
Okay,
right.
so I'm intrigued now. So run us through what is slow listening because I think this could be real helpful to a lot of the caregivers and people that are in our community.
Would you like the story about when I actually coined slow listening?
Oh, I love stories.
You like
Yeah.
stories? Okay. I was sent to a hospital room of an inpatient at the Georgetown Hospital who had been there a while, and she was listed as nonverbal. And I went in. At that point, I was taking collections of beads with me. I found that taking beads and letting people string a bracelet was a really accessible art activity. They could play with shape and color and pattern and create something quickly and simply without too much. So we were I was there trying to offer her, I was there offering her, not no try, offering this beaded bracelet project. And she didn't really speak to me, but we connected. And then she noticed my sweater. And because because we were connected, she said to me, I have that sweater, but mine is green. And I thought, this is not a nonverbal person. It took her a while to say it. She just needed somebody to shut up and listen. So we did slow listening. I went back and reported to the team that, in fact, she had spoken to me and said something that was not medical, something that was personal. And they revised their evaluation of what she could do. Ended up taking a big chart of words with a pointer, which was perhaps faster, but at least they acknowledged that she could and she did want to communicate. So,
And uh, you were getting pretty emotional there, right?
yes,
Okay, and you also got emotional when you read the first sentence of your book. Am I correct in that?
yes, yes. So
Okay, no,
I have,
I love it, and it's really important to, for all of us to just be reminded it's okay to express emotions. I think,
I worked
yeah.
very hard for in 25 years of sitting with people who were suffering,
Mhm.
not to pave myself over. You know, um, the authentic connection includes your emotional self. So there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I
Yeah, no,
that it's important. It's important telling ourselves we must not cry, we must not be angry, we must not express our emotional selves. Does not do us any good.
no, and
So,
you're leading by example, which is amazing. I
and
love it.
I worked on this book for a year. How many hundreds of times did I read that sentence? You know,
Mhm.
so
No, that's what struck me. Like at first, when I heard you read it, and I was like, gosh, she's getting emotional, but she's read that, she wrote that, she's read it thousands of times,
I've shuffled that sentence
yeah.
hundreds of
And
times, and it still
it,
matters.
yeah, and then I just sort of registered that as, oh, maybe that's just the way that she talks. And then when you were talking about the slow listening client, I was like, wow, that is very authentic and powerful. And I just wanted to recognize that
Right.
because this is a great example. And as you can see, the people in the comments
They're going
are
ballistic.
Okay.
very, yeah, yeah,
Someone has said, how can this help if we are blocked emotionally? I can't tell you how to fix this because you're not broken, but if um, you can help yourself be aware. Just being aware. Oh, this is my emotional self showing up or not showing up. Um, that's what you could do. You just have to pay attention to it. That's all.
yeah. And like looking at what I know we're going to talk about, working with our hands and art and this, that, and the other, but it's uh this is an expressive outlet that
Absolutely.
is that and introducing, like, can't tell you how many, it's interesting. Mamela says she uses your book to work with the residents of her support group. But
Hmm.
what's interesting is in all the retirement communities that I visited over the years, oftentimes I'll be thrown into an activity room where people are painting or doing some kind of artistic project. Almost every time I will walk over and just say, "Hey, wow, how long have you been doing this?" It's like I never picked up a paintbrush until I moved in here. It's never too late. There is nobody who can't try at least to express
Right.
themselves through art. And once we're out of elementary school, nobody's grading us on any of this stuff. It's just
Right.
it's
Right.
pure expression.
One
So
toward the end of the book, I'm not really great on linear thinking. That's
yeah.
not the best thing, which is why I had to rewrite the book 3 times to get an order. So some people would have arranged this in a different order, but toward the end of the book, I in the chapter about finding your own hands-on happiness,
Uh-huh.
I do address perfectionism and letting go of the need to be perfect. Perfect is an arbitrary concept and an unobtainable goal, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So, how to change your perspective so that you can appreciate where you are, what you're doing today, and um, enjoy it. Just enjoy it, and the, just pay pay no attention to that little noisy part of yourself that said this isn't good enough, because that's it's not true. It's just not true.
So the first line in this chapter, which I really like because this is the science in me,
Yes,
um, it says, when your hands cooperate across the center line of your body, your
yes,
busy mind slows down. And what we know is that the brain is divided into two lobes, and the
right,
left side is the more logistical, and the right side is, and I'm dyslexic, so I'm using the wrong hands. The
right,
right side is more creative. And so when you combine those two and you cross your body physically with your hands or your
right.
legs, those lobes have a chance to intersect
Yes,
and in their wavelengths. And so that's how you find that calm. That's how you get to that place of,
right. When
oh,
of
I can
balance.
really focus.
It's a place of balance, right?
Balance. Thank you.
Yes, yes, a place of balance. I had uh, and for many people, that left brain, the part that has to be logical and orderly
And judgmental.
and judgmental, uh, is louder than the right side of the brain, which doesn't care what time it is and lets you lose yourself in a project. So my old roommate Liz used to call her left brain Nigel. And when she needed to, and when she felt too much internal criticism, she would just tell Nigel to go sit in the corner and read the paper.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's interesting. I want to read two comments that Martha
Yes,
Lee shares. The first was, "It brings tears to my eyes just to imagine being labeled as nonverbal when you aren't." And and
yeah,
I agree. And these labels that we assign on folks, they can be stigmatizing and really damage individuals' um
right.
self-esteem. It oftentimes, especially like for young children who get a diagnosis early in life, they can live with that diagnosis, even if it might not be exactly accurate, you know. So
Yeah.
I agree, Martha. And then Martha also says, and I think there's a lot of people that can identify with this. She goes, "I grew up in a family of artists. I don't feel like I'm allowed to make anything that isn't absolutely amazing." And I think
Hmm.
that's,
How about that?
whether it's art, engineering, athletics. I mean, there are a lot of times, our, whether it be our family or a friend circle, it's the ability to just break free and express ourselves, and be ourselves as well.
And be ourselves. Yes. So it depends on your definition of amazing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yep,
Exactly.
exactly. So the fact that you have chosen to do something in itself is amazing. And the mantra, I am a beginner, is so powerful. Saying, this is the first time I've ever picked up a watercolor brush. This is what you get. How about that? It's amazing. Look at this. There's
Mhm.
a little hard thing, and I put water in it, and suddenly I have something that almost looks like a flower. That is amazing. So
Yep.
hang in there, Martha.
I was
Yeah.
also
No,
going to
no.
add that, with the awareness around aphasia and stroke support and knowing how creativity and stroke support really marry well, um, because you can recover from a stroke if you've given the right kinds of tools. The slow listening works fantastic when you're with somebody with cognitive challenges across the board. So for
Mhm.
caregivers, be mindful of that, that you don't have to rush the words. You have to just be patient and hang in there. And in terms of modality for hands, if you don't have access to one hand, but you can mirror that, they've also shown scientifically that that can help as well. Just
Right.
doing the artwork in a mirror can help
Hmm.
the other's hand start to connect with what it could be doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my favorite new words is neuroplasticity, which means we never lose the capacity to learn how to do something new. We are constantly changing, no matter how
Glad you're
old.
bringing up I'm glad you're bringing up words, Lauren, because Wally Clatch, who uh, I view as a celebrity, but he's here in our discussion. He says
Hi, Wally.
emotionless. Let's put feelingfulness in our vocabulary as much as mindfulness. We need this word, and we don't even have it. And the reason I say that Wally's a celebrity, he Wally is living with dementia. He has a dementia diagnosis, and one of his things is getting out there and talking to people that you can still live a purposeful life with dementia. But I really feel like art and expressing ourselves through creative vehicles, like when I go to a dementia care community, it's people living without filters. Now, if that
Right.
is your aunt or uncle, it's very difficult because it's like, oh my gosh, Uncle Joe is not acting correctly. But if you go in there as an observer, it's like you went into an artist colony, which is life without filters. And I think and so anyways, I know both of you may have some experience in working with art with people with dementia.
Mm.
Fast.
You have a huge thing. I have one little story, and Patricia, and then I will let you share your.
No, no, it's all yours.
I,
It's all
I,
yours.
I visited my aunt in Florida a couple years ago, and she had drifted quite a bit. You know, she did have a dementia diagnosis, and she was alert and aware and loved to talk. She was her same self. She just was not quite the same. And I got there, and she was so thrilled to see me. And she asked me about every 10 minutes how I got there. You know, she knew that I had not been there and had come to visit her. And so I would tell her how I got there. And then 10 minutes later, here's the same question. And I thought, Connie is trying to play a card game, and she only has two cards left in her hand. So she doesn't have very many things to lead. She still wants to play the game of having a conversation with somebody. So then it became my job to answer her question in an honest but different way every time. So I told her about taking the bus from my house to the airport, and I told her about the person that I talked to on the airplane, and I talked about, all of the aspects of my journey to see her. She was thrilled. We talked for an hour about that. That, you know, just thinking of what is this person really trying to say? She didn't really care. She just wanted to keep the conversation going.
That's beautiful,
Wow.
Lauren. Great story.
Right.
So I'd like
The-
to shift a little bit towards how folks, um, maybe who aren't living with big challenges like those, can use this book. And you recently found out about a book club. So tell us about the story of the book club.
This is a great story. I sing in my church choir. One of the other sopranos is a woman who's about 30 years old with a beautiful purple streak through her hair. And she bought my book and read it to be supportive of her fellow soprano. She came up to me last night at our choir rehearsal and she said, since I read your book, I have been crocheting like crazy. I was never a crafty person, but I belonged to this book club and I read your book and talked to the book club about it. We have changed how we meet. Instead of reading a book and then getting together and discussing it, we get together on Tuesday nights, we have a potluck, and then we sit around with an audiobook. We all listen to an audiobook at the same time, and everybody is knitting or crocheting or embroidering or something, doing a hands-on activity as a group. And I thought, wow, what a fabulous way to build community, to be mindful together, to treat your handwork as something important, and still, eat together and enjoy literature together. What a great shift. And she ordered 6 copies of my book from me to share with her community as their holiday gift.
Very
So,
sweet.
purposeful,
Yes,
uh,
it,
multitasking. Yes.
intentional activity, which I wrote this book to start this conversation, and how interesting to hear where the conversation is leading other people.
And when so many times, Steve, we discuss solo aging, this is a great opportunity to get together, stitch together, whatever, using your hands. Maybe somebody's drawing and doodling during this. We have a
Right?
graphic artist who attends our Death Cafe every month, and she's always doodling a cartoon about what we're talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. A
Mm-hmm.
graphic illustration, not a cartoon. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Mary Jo. So it's so interesting to hear how different people can bring this
Right.
together and how supportive it can be for community building and isolation fighting.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
a
I
really
love it.
good one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to the table of contents because I
Okay.
got a question about chapter
Okay.
4, which
About.
is the creative go bag.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
Good plan.
yeah.
Good
So
plan.
what's that?
Um, Many of us have periods of time when we're going to the doctor's office, or we're taking somebody someplace, or waiting for kids to be picked up from school. Many times that we have a little period of time that there's not something scheduled and we just have to be there. Having a hands-on project already in mind, already prepared, designed, the materials selected, all of that, and tucked into a bag. I have I have my own little creative go bag here right now to show you what I've been doing. I'm making a quilt similar to the one behind me. And here are the pieces. It's stitched by hand. I've got various things clipped together. I've got a spool of thread and a needle and pins all tucked into the bag so that when you're going someplace and you'll be waiting, it's all right there. It could be you knitting, it could be, whatever. Something to do with your hands, um, that can be done while you are waiting in little in between times. You can also throw a bottle of water in there and the package of crackers or whatever it is that you um, to tend your physical self, but just to spend a little time ahead of time being prepared to pick up your project and go. One of my um, online Georgetown students said she had her go bag. Her neighbor called her, needed to go to the emergency room. And so, she grabbed her coat, grabbed her purse, grabbed her go bag, took her friend to the emergency room, and spent time while she was sitting with her friend making something, which then gave them something to talk about, and she was ready to go. So that's the
And
go.
I love it. And Jeannie says she does that with crossword puzzles. And I think what has happened in our culture today is this is the go bag, but
Yeah.
you can do crossword puzzles on here. You can probably even do something that resembles quilting on here. But
Drawing.
Yeah.
there's something about this, something about a pencil and a crossword puzzle or a sketch
That's
that
different than the
it's
phone.
Right.
different.
And,
Yeah.
and the difference is embodied activity. That's really the essential part of hands-on mindfulness. Your physical self needs to be doing something. So, um,
What is interesting to me now is how people of a certain age are gravitating towards Legos again, and they're very
oh
much
yeah,
for adults, and that could be part of the go bag. And believe me,
absolutely,
you pull
absolutely,
out a board with Legos on it, and everybody's eyes are on you. So not only are
Uh,
you helping yourself feel better, but all the people in the room are actually cheering
exactly,
you on in that
exactly,
process.
exactly.
And we
Um,
know, go ahead.
yep, I have been diagnosed with osteoporosis. How about that? I elected to take the annual infusion to deal with that. How about that? So when I went, that was my first experience of being in an infusion unit as a recipient of an infusion. I had been in an infusion unit thousands of times to sit with other people while they were getting infused. And I had a little bit following my own advice. My go bag had a quilt that needed the binding finished. So I was sitting in the waiting room finishing this binding. The man sitting next to me admired the colors of it and proceeded to tell me and the entire waiting room about his experience taking an art class when he was in community college years ago and how paying attention to art had changed his life. We would never have had that conversation had it not
Mhm.
been for showing up in a public place doing something. I'm sure Legos would Legos would be a fabulous way to create a little temporary community right there.
They're so portable, and you can
Yeah,
create anything, and everybody loves it. It makes you feel like a kid again, even though
yeah,
they're not just for kids. And I dropped a
absolutely.
couple of our
Thank you.
previous discussions on Legos and osteoporosis. It's
Right.
yeah, I mean,
No,
very, very common amongst
very common.
women,
And
and
how about
it's
that?
worth
You know, you
for
just
you.
learn about it and then do what you need to do.
Well, and also I'm bringing, I know we're going down a bunch of rabbit holes here, but again, the beauty of it is that we're doing it under the umbrella of art. But one of the things I want to remind people of is when you get a diagnosis, whether it be Parkinson's, dementia, or osteoporosis, that it actually is a gift in that
Yeah.
this is a new community that you can connect with. Like, and here's the thing, none of you wanted to be sitting there in that medical
No,
waiting room,
nobody
but
wanted to be there.
because you were there, that's a community, and your art connected, and it could be something else. And honestly, if we talk about the woman that always has the crossword puzzle in her go bag, when you're doing a crossword puzzle in on paper, somebody may engage you. I do crossword puzzles too. When you're playing around with your phone, it's almost like a silencer. Is
I was just
that
Yes,
going to say a
I don't
dome
want to
of
be
silence.
bothered, and
right.
yeah, and
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, I feel that same way about reading a paper book. You're physically
Mhm.
engaged in doing
Oh,
that.
people can see the thing as opposed to listening to it on a as a book on tape.
Right.
And in
Yeah.
Okay.
the beginning of your
Yeah, go
book,
ahead.
you write about how to be aware of the five senses when you're doing
Exactly.
this work. And I think we skipped over that part, but I would love to go back to that, that
Okay.
it's a touch thing, but it's also a smell thing, it's also a hearing thing, a sight thing, a feeling thing. And I think that also is what brings that feeling fullness that your friend was talking about into
Hmm.
play.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. The a five senses body scan is another thing to do when you're sitting and waiting. If you don't have something to do with your hands, just be aware, how do I feel? How does the chair feel under me? What are the fragrances in the air? What do I smell? What is the temperature? All of those, what do I see? All of those things are paying attention to your physical self rather than just being a disembodied head, which is what we become when we're just on the screen. So,
I
um,
love it. Okay. I'm looking at the clock. We got about 15 minutes to go. So I want to make sure that before we run out of time, that Lauren and Patricia, that we cover all the elements that you like to cover when you're talking about this topic. And then we do have a couple of comments that I'd love to address that have come in, but I want to make sure that we get to all the sort of check boxes that you all like to share with people.
okay. I would like to read from page 27 of my book.
Okay.
We can talk until we're blue in the face about the importance of mind-body connection, the importance of using handwork to do that. But I would like to share with you how to do that We can talk about doing it, but here's how. And I have a step-by-step there. Um, your first your first step is to choose to make this hands-on activity and in, to choose to do it, to set the intention. I am now going to knit mindfully. I am now going to make cookies mindfully. I am now going to create a mosaic or whatever it is you're doing. And then give that your full attention. So that five senses paying attention, that five senses awareness. I'm stitching a quilt. I am aware of how the needle feels in my hands. I'm aware of the sound of the thread as it goes through the cloth. I'm aware of the interaction of the colors of the pieces as I stitch them. Um, that I'm aware of the texture of this. How does this feel? Probably not so much taste. We don't, but just be aware of the sensory experience of doing the activity you're doing. And then let go and be open the to that state of flow, that state of right brain immersion in the project. You will find that the monkey mind that keeps talking does shut up. And then that gives you a chance to think about other kinds of things, maybe to think about a different perspective on something that may have been deeply concerning to you. Just saying, how else can I look at this? And when your hands are busy, you can get to a place of fresh perspective. And then finish up when you're done with your work, be grateful and admire what you have done. Like, look at this. 10 minutes ago, this thing wasn't here. I have created something magic with my hands. 10 minutes ago, it was an idea and a pile of stuff. And now it is this beautiful thing. So here's my little ritual. I will read this to you. Collect the tools and materials you will be using for the project in a special container. I have a box that looks like an old leather-bound book that opens up to hold needles and thread, thimbles, a needle threader, pins, and a little pair of scissors. It sits on the side table in my living room near a comfy chair. When it's time to do some handwork, like finishing a binding, the box is right there with everything I need. My time for sewing meditation begins with opening the box. This defines the time as set apart for this mindful activity. And then I focus on the movement of my hands as they accomplish this beautiful, useful task. When the work on the binding stops, everything goes back into the box, returns to its place on the table. The task is completed, and I now can move on to other things. So clearly defining the time. As with other rituals, you just define the time. This is when I am doing this on purpose for not only to make something, but for the purpose of my mental health.
So
Oh, that's beautiful.
some people have taken that onto their calendars
Oh,
and
yes.
created alarms to say it's creativity time. Stop
Mhm.
what you're doing, turn off your phone, and open your
Right.
box or open your bag or go for a
Right.
walk or whatever your
Whatever,
creativity thing is.
right, whatever your embodied practice is to help you be mindful. May I tell
And
you about my friend Hannah? Okay.
Yeah.
So Hannah is the mother of two young children, 2 and 4, and I met her through our creative activities. She lives in a house that she shares with her parents. So the grandparents live upstairs. She and her husband and their little kids live downstairs. And every Friday, Hannah has creativity time blocked into her schedule. And her parents have blocked into their schedule that they will take care of the sweet little grandchildren during this time so that Hannah will have time to care for herself. And Hannah wrote to me. She was telling me about this, and I asked her if I could tell this story today. Hannah wrote back to me, and I quote, "It is a balm to my week and helps me love my kiddos so much more. It helps her love her children more to have time away from them." How fabulous is that? Patricia, you
Yeah.
had somebody watch your little ones when you were a mother of young children so that you could paint, didn't you?
Yes, I was very fortunate. I was artist in resident for the city of Rockville for a number of years, and then I had my first child, and the studio was a three-story walk-up in the old Civic Center mansion.
Yeah.
And by the time I'd take her out of the car and get her upstairs, she'd wake up. And then, of course, it was playtime for the baby, and I got no work done. So my parents very kindly said, "You know what? Bring her, make your studio back in our house, and bring the baby. And if she falls asleep in the car, my dad would sit outside and watch her sleep. It was so cute. Or bring her in the house and play, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made a huge difference for me to know that I had could still get my creativity time.
Right.
Working, at home as a mom rarely works. You
It's
got to have
very,
dedicated time to work and you got to have dedicated time to be with kids and trying to do both at the same time, very
very,
challenging. I'm watching
very
my
much.
daughter go through that with her and my
Yeah.
grandson
And
now.
Right.
and you all are talking about this in raising parents and just knowing our audience and the fact that there are caregivers of elders in the audience. This is sort of the new you're not raising your children, you're caring for your loved ones. And
Right.
just a reminder of how, like you said, Patricia, it's next to impossible to raise kids and work from home.
It,
Being a caregiver to an elder and working from home and requiring
yeah.
this mindful opportunity for mindfulness. So as both of you have been talking with a heightened sensitivity that not everybody, that people are intimidated about art like out there. I mean, they really are. Like not everybody is sort of like, oh yes, art, let's do it. Is but I want to share something with some folks because what I love is Lauren's process, like the process of making this a ritual and something that it's the warm up. It's opening that book
Opening the
and
box. Yes.
something special that you're doing there, and and so when I was a kid, my favorite thing to do was skateboard. And as an adult, there was an art exhibit by a skateboarder. Okay. And I forget if I was watching a video or somebody told me this, but he was sort of like, as skateboarders, we are really artists. Every time we drop into the bowl or ride down a
Mhm.
sidewalk, it's like we're painting a picture. And I was like, oh my God, if somebody had told me that when I was 14, I don't know if I could process it, but I wish somebody had introduced that to me. And the message that I want to share with folks is thinking about Lauren's process of getting ready to quilt. Maybe your thing is washing your car. Okay. Like that is a work of art. Like the process that you go through and how
Mhm.
you do it and the care and the passion that you're applying to that. There's so many things that we can apply this artistic approach that you're introducing us to.
Right. Particularly
Even
the
making your bed.
right.
Yeah. Oh
It,
gosh, what a great
yes.
one.
Yes. The paying attention to how we move, life is a dance, and dance is one of the important physical arts.
Yeah.
So I used to
Yeah.
watch
Like
my husband polish his car, and he would do this and he would do this and he would stretch. And, it was a beautiful dance about that.
but but I think one of the things is it's self-awareness.
Right. Right.
It's like you were observing the art and the motion of your husband, whereas let's all be aware, and let's help our friends be aware that that was beautiful. I saw some beauty in you pulling the weeds today,
Right.
because
Right.
some of the what we may think of are these mundane tasks can now become works of art, and as they
And
should be.
and
So
rich.
yeah.
One of my guiding principles through my career as a fiber artist was to elevate the work, the domestic work of women who crocheted and tatted and knitted and quilted, all of these things, which when I was in college were not considered art. They were domestic activity. The art world was not appreciative. They did not get it. And I am so thrilled to be able to say this is a very valuable activity. It's not just women's busy.
Fluff. Right.
No, it is
Right.
it is significant activity.
So one of the things that often, when people say they've never delved into the arts, or and we talk
Right.
about all these different ways that you've connected in the arts that you may not have realized, it's also very valuable to say to somebody, make something for someone else. Intentionalize what you're making, and I know you talk
Oh,
about this in the towards the end of the
yes,
book.
right. And how
Um,
to plan projects and who, yeah, I do.
Right. Find a person, maybe it's a family member who's having a birthday or just feeling low, or maybe it's a grandchild, or maybe it's a grandparent, or maybe it's an anonymous serviceman or woman who's overseas, you know,
Uh-huh.
s- protecting us from horrible things. When we make something for someone else, we gain amazing endorphins and feel better.
Yes.
And at the same time, we're doing this mindfulness practice with our hands. So I love that part.
Everybody
That's
wins.
in
Everybody
the
wins.
last chapter, I think. And then
Yes.
do you want to talk about the labyrinth and the prayer flag project?
Sure. I'll
Yeah,
be
let's
happy
do that
to.
because we got a few minutes
Okay.
left. So
So
let's close. Thank you everybody for all the great questions and
thank you.
comments.
Yes. So a labyrinth is a meditative walking space. Excuse me. It's often it's circular, not usually, but mm,
You okay?
I am okay. Um, Patricia, tell us about your labyrinth in your yard.
Okay. So she needs a minute. Um, so when we had the sniper situation in Montgomery County, actually all the DMV, everybody got very fearful of having their children outside. And I had, a fairly protected backyard. And so we created a grass labyrinth, just by mowing a labyrinth basically through a weedy patch. My sense of gardening is not the highest. And then for years after that, people would come and walk the labyrinth for meditation, for grieving, for healing. Kids love to find little treasures I'd put along the labyrinth, seashells and whatnots. And it became kind of a community thing. So when you walk a labyrinth as opposed to a maze, it's actually a given path, and you can let go of thoughts and logistics because you're on a given path, and you're going to end
Mhm.
up in the middle, and then you're going to walk back out. With a maze, you're constantly, like, oh no, I can't get out. I have to figure
I'm
something out.
right. So it's a continuous
Welcome
path.
back.
Thank you. We painted a labyrinth on a concrete area right outside the surgery waiting room at Lombardi. All the artists did it, and it was a space that had kind of been a walkway before. So in order to make that space more special, I sat at the table in the clinic for weeks and encouraged people to write a prayer or an inspirational statement on a square of fabric. And we hung them on strings in the style of prayer flags. And it created a sense of sacred space to have all of these colored flags with writing on them hanging above the labyrinth. It also told people that this was not a walkway. There was something else going on in this space. And that writing on a prayer flag was a wonderful, wonderful hands-on activity for the clinic. People who would not have sewn with me were happy to sit down and write, you know, blessings to all, or warm thoughts, or bits of poetry, or drew little pictures, whatever. It was really wonderful. There's a nice picture of that in the book. It was a great project.
I love it. Well, we are pretty much out of time. This has been a great discussion. We talked about some fantastic stuff. This was very therapeutic for me. I'm looking at the world differently, and the
Good.
way that we look at the world is an art project, guys. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cool thing. It's
We
this for all of us.
we live in the world we choose to see.
Hmm. Cool. I like that. Yeah. So in essence, all of us are painting a different picture through that lens.
Mhm.
And that's where with art, there's a connection is that when you're in an art museum and you're looking at these works of art, and if two people are standing next to each other and they connect with that, it's a connection.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
wow, I love it.
So
Um,
speaking of connections, I just wanted to say that Lauren had a little visit in Washington last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was able to introduce her and her book to several communities in the area. So if you have a community that you'd like Lauren to present at and would like her to pop into your Zoom room or in person, she is all about connecting and keeping
Absolutely.
those connections. She also offers a lot of classes online and also in person in the Denver area in her new home.
In my new home.
So
Yes,
please
I'd
feel
be
free to
happy
be
to
in touch.
come. Be happy to come to your group. We can talk. We can make sing things together. I have lots of little fun projects. So thank you very
I
much,
love it.
Steve. Thank you for the opportunity to
Oh,
be here today. I'm
this
so
was my
grateful.
pleasure.
This was
And
lovely.
folks, by the weekend we'll get this up online at proaging.com. We've got contact info for Lauren and Patricia. And if I don't see you between now and the beginning of December, everybody have a great Thanksgiving. And we will be talking to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Steve. Just